My name is Baatin. Everybody knows me as Baatin. I'm a musician, originally from the Macon, Georgia area. And my claim to fame is that I play several instruments, but one of my favorites is the guitar. And I've been in Atlanta since 1990. Played just about every venue in Atlanta that you can name or think of. I've seen them come and go, and I'm just happy to be here. Happy to still be representing my area, Macon, Georgia area, and bringing some of the authentic blues and funk and even jazz up to the ATL.
And I am Fontaine Lewis, the host of Jazz and Jokes, home base Marietta, kind of known as Marietta Jazz and Jokes, but you can find me at Jazz and Jokes Atlanta on Facebook. But I do jazz and clean comedy shows throughout the region and all the way up now to Richmond, Virginia, national and local acts. I'm pleased to be working with the fine gentleman, Mr. Baatin, for the last several years, and had a little idea and called him up and said, want to run something by you, and a show was born.
All right. So that's one of the reasons why we have you guys on, because you have a really cool show coming up. So Fontaine, tell us a little bit about the show that you guys coming up on and some dates and kind of what it's all about.
All right. Well, I am a huge, for you old school people that may know what this is what we call back in the day a box set. And I've got a box set for the one and only Mr. Jimi Hendrix. Been a fan, and those of you that know, unless you were a real big fan of that group, you didn't invest in the box set, which has such a history. This one I think has 6 CDs covering probably 20 years of his music. And I've always been a huge Jimi Hendrix fan. My parents played it when I was growing up. It was the soundtrack when we do that Saturday morning cleaning, when you got out the thing of bowling wax to do your chores before you even got to go outside and play. So we had Hendrix playing along with some Nina Simone and different folks. And so I've been a fan for many, many years. Been working with Baatin, another left-handed guitarist, and saw something and heard something in his sound that I'm like, I haven't seen anybody in the Atlanta area really touch on a Hendrix tribute. So, I'm kind of that guy that likes to get outside the box, do some different things. Just had a James Taylor Carole King tribute. This weekend I'm doing an Aretha Franklin and, paying tribute to the Ladies of Soul. But when I saw Baatin play, I'm like, I think this brother could do some justice to some Jimi Hendrix, and gave him a call, and he was wide open to it. And he's got some history with that Hendrix crew down in Macon, and so he was like, I'm with it. Let's do it.
Wow. So, and this question is for Baatin. So what made Hendrix so special as a guitarist?
Well, first of all, he was left-handed, and I'm left-handed. And so, especially early on, I think the first time I really read anything about Hendrix, it was like maybe 68, 69. It was in Downbeat magazine. And there was an article that was entitled, Jimi Hendrix, Is His Music Black or White? And I read about Hendrix, and I just became intrigued with his persona, with the things that he was saying and the things that they were saying about him. And so I just kind of gravitated toward Hendrix, and I saw some of the stuff that he was doing, very innovative in terms of the blues, sort of put the blues on steroids, you might say. And that kind of, I could relate to that. And like I said, one of the main thing was that, he was left-handed, I was left-handed. And that's always been a distinguishing thing for me, is being left-handed, being a little different. So he stuck out, and then his music stuck out.
No,
was
it's
the start of it.
okay. Well, it's kind of interesting as you kind of mentioned, you know, that article that asked what kind of music was Hendrix. Now, is that an issue that's still debatable? Do people still kind of have that debate of how to categorize that Jimi Hendrix kind of music?
Well, I think as the years went by and people, you know, applied a little deeper analysis, they were able to really, you know, see the root of Hendrix's music as coming from the blues, and his intelligence and ability to transcend other genres and incorporate them into his blues expression. You know, namely some of the stuff he did covered from Bob Dylan, like All Along the Watchtower and Like a Rolling Stone, stuff like that. And he was just a very innovative. You know, he looked at things from a very high level, in my opinion, from a very comprehensive level in terms of his understanding of, you know, the mechanics and the anatomy of the music and how the different elements fit in together and work together.
Now, you know, he was able to accomplish all these really cool things and be so innovative at such a really young age before he died. What do you attribute his ability to kind of really pick that up and kind of accelerate his growth as an artist?
I don't know if I could really say one particular thing. I do know that, you know, when you have an artist like Hendrix, there's always an influence somewhere. And that's another thing that I relate to, is that I understand. I was never around, but I understand from some people at home in Macon, Georgia, that Jimi Hendrix had experience in Macon, and he used to go under the tutelage of the great Johnny Jenkins from Macon, who was a left-handed guitar player, and he was one of the first players that would incorporate the things like playing the guitar behind your back, you know, playing it with your teeth and so forth and so on like that. And so he was very innovative. And a friend of mine, Johnny Jenkins, had a group called the Pine Toppers. And then the Pine Toppers, a lot of people that the historians have the history sort of mixed up. They said that, well, anyway, the Pine Toppers had a lead singer by the name of Otis Redding. And historians kind of got it mixed up. They were saying that Johnny Jenkins was part of Otis's band, but actually Otis was part of Johnny Jenkins' band. Otis got the break. He got the break, and then he hired Johnny Jenkins later after he had gotten his break, trying to pull Johnny up. But Johnny Jenkins was kind of flamboyant and innovative himself. He was very intelligent, very progressive. And actually, I am told that he was the one that changed Jimmy's, you know, he played left-handed. He had an upside-down right-handed guitar, and it was strung right-handed. And that Johnny Jenkins was the one that caused him to string his guitar up in the quote-unquote orthodox style, where you have the large E string on the top. So, you know, Jimmy, and then of course Jimmy was, he played with Little Richard. And if you know anything about Little Richard, especially back in the day, Little Richard was one of the most innovative musicians ever to come about. You know, you're talking about putting music on steroids. I mean, he really did it. You think about the I never will forget as a little boy when I heard the first time I heard the song "Good Golly Miss Molly." Man, the energy that Little Richard exudes on that, it just goes off the chart, man. You know what I mean? And so Hendrix played with Little Richard. And then you think about other innovators like the Isley Brothers. Hendrix played with the Isley Brothers. And you go back, the Isley Brothers were very innovative, even way back and then, you know what I mean? And brought a lot of fresh ideas. And I understand also that there was another great blues man from Macon named Eddie Kirkland. I don't know if you're familiar with him. The people who are really into the blues, they know about Eddie. And Eddie was a bad man, you know. And I had the opportunity to play with Eddie right before he died. I mean, it was just really weird how this man died. He was like almost 90 years old, and you would think he would die from natural causes, but he died in a car wreck. He was leaving a gig. He was 90 years old, driving his own car to the gig, and somebody hit him, you know.
Wow.
And so all of these guys are worth checking out. Johnny Jenkins, Eddie Kirkland. If you look at some of the stuff they did, you can see how innovative they was. And some people say, man, it must have been something in the water down in Macon or something where you had all of this music came through Macon, and it just seems like it took on a whole different, color, a whole different aspect. And during that time, a lot of the major acts like King Curtis, Aretha Franklin, they would get their musicians from Macon. And of course, we got the Godfather of Soul, James Brown, who was from Augusta, but he made his claim to fame in Macon. And like you said, you had Otis Redding and the Pine Toppers. It was just a real hotbed of musical creativity, especially for that time.